Hi, and welcome to Climate Coffee, the first in our new series where we're going to go into the climate issues around climate risk, climate tech, climate change, climate science, and everything else climate. And we're going to really try and get to the bottom of some of these issues, give you some analysis, do many of the things we've done before, but really take it to that next level. I think one of the things in taking it to the next level is in terms of the amount of content that we're going to be putting out, as well as where it's out. So we're going to be doing 2 series a week, much shorter, much more quick and easily digestible. And we're going to be doing them across a range of channels. We're going to do them here on LinkedIn, we're going to be doing them on YouTube, we're going to do them on Insta, we're going to do them on TikTok, and I imagine anywhere else that you can do technical things like that. So in the podcast, you can find them on anywhere you normally get your podcasts, from Spotify, from Apple Podcasts, and from anywhere else. With that, let's get into the intro. Welcome again to Climate Coffee. So first on Climate Coffee this week, a bit of tech news. We have an article from the FT, the Financial Times, talking about DeepMind. DeepMind is a deep tech startup founded by Demis Habibi, effectively going into very, very deep, complex machine learning algorithms. So they've done work ranging from the NHS to many other maybe more controversial areas, but now they've turned their eye to weather specifically. So they're working with the UK Met Office to bring in much higher cadence and much more accurate, apparently, AI-driven weather alerts, basically from 5 minutes to 90 minutes, which is great. And there are certainly some other startups in this space like Tomorrow.io, formerly Climacell, which is launching weather satellites to monitor these types of things. There was recently an article announcing that they had a $20 million contract with the US government to basically have better weather alerting systems. And this is really important because short-term weather stuff matters. But there is a secondary issue here, which is like, if we don't have our umbrella when it rains, it sucks. If we are maybe saying to truckers if there's going to be high winds and they have risks of their trucks blowing over, this is very important and can cause short-term issues. But actually, I don't know if you've seen it, there's a cartoon, I think originally in The Economist, which has these concurrent waves, where we have COVID, then the bigger wave is going to be climate change, and the bigger wave is going to be biodiversity collapse off of the top of that. It's really a case of working out where are the most important parts of the climate, weather, and sustainability space that we can really double click on. And I think as one of these examples here, right, like these types of AI-powered, machine learning-powered approaches are things that we're developing at SUST for long-term projections of how the climate's going to impact on assets rather than the short term. Neither one's right, neither one's wrong, but we really want to be able to use both of these things, and the increasing amount of satellites that are being launched, such as those from Tomorrow.io, and those on the machine learning and the AI side that are really crunching into some of this data, such as SUST and such as many other companies in this area. I think we're really going to see this continued explosion of abilities to understand our climate better, both in the short term and the long term, to validate the results of this data better, and really kind of question many of these insights that we have. I know I've talked about it so many times, but I'll reiterate it again. ESG is booming. There is this huge influx of capital into these types of areas. But it's very, very rare that we're actually seeing validated and clear to understand data that underpins these types of top-level ESG metrics. So I think with this improved data sources, such as the satellites, as well as improved AI, we really are going to see this amazing pivot point in history where we drive forwards new ways of understanding our climate, mitigating the ways that it can impact on us, and ultimately as well, really reducing the impact that we have on the future versions of this climate change. So in our models at SUST, we see multiple different forward-looking time horizons. We have the green road, where we do make meaningful changes in our emissions and warming only goes up by 1.5 degrees. We have the middle of the road, which is a 2.5 degree-ish warming scenario. And then we have the 4.5 degree RCP 4, or SSP 4.5 RCP 8.5, which really is the worst case, business as usual, we do nothing. And you can see over time the huge differences in our actions in terms of the future of our planet. So just some really interesting research, some interesting analysis. It also ties into the second article that I want to highlight from the FT, the Climate Capital section, which I really recommend you all checking out. And that is basically from the aspect of investors. There is this huge run away from energy stocks right now, quite rightly. Things like Engine or Engine One, which had this significant impact in terms of Shell and their board seats, and really these activist these activist investors making changes, which is brilliant. However, one of the interesting things we're seeing is many of the regular stocks are flowing away, or many of the regular investors are flowing away from these stocks. And what we're seeing is hedge funds who aren't bound by such strict regulations piling in, investing in energy stocks, and basically saying, hey, this price is suppressed. We think that there's still value in this. So it's not to say that there's necessarily a right answer, but I just think it's a really interesting insight into how the market is evolving and how investor preferences are evolving, consumer preferences, and i.e. that kind of ties back to shareholders for publicly listed companies, and actually how there are still opportunities on both sides to make money in the short term, but how this is going to in effect play out over the long term. Hedge funds are always going to trade on the micro signals in the market rather than having these long-term views. And I think it's a really, really interesting time. We're in this huge shift where there is all of this money flying around. We've got the ex-CIO from BlackRock, certainly on the sustainable capital side, Tarek Fancy, leaving because he says, hey, there's too much greenwashing and actually doesn't represent real data. We're seeing this huge run away from these large oil majors who are doing terrible damage to the environment, but also they're investing hundreds of millions of dollars into many of these climate forward, climate innovators who are actually driving significant change. So there really isn't any one clear right answer. One of our values and virtues at SUST is critical curiosity, where we don't just accept the standard narratives in the media. We really want to go in and think, well, these are complex issues. There are so many changes and so many kind of nuances that are happening in these areas. And we really want in Climate Coffee moving forwards to dive a bit deeper into that, not just have these quick kind of semi-knee-jerk reactions from me talking to the camera, but actually get experts in. We had an interview with Alan Smith, who works at HSBC and their risk team and their climate risk team as their senior advisor there to the board on all these types of issues. He's recently started a new job with the Church of England, working in their trust and making sure that they invest sustainably. And we brought him in and we had a 3-part series going into the values and really kind of the philosophy around climate change and a philosophy around climate finance. So we want to do more stuff like that as well. Please do comment, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on LinkedIn, in the sections below, and tell us, what do you really want to hear? Email me at josh.gilbert@susglobal.com. Let us know. We really want to make this an organic process where we can continue to educate, inform, challenge, and ultimately have a wider discourse on all of these issues in Climate Coffee. Thanks very much for listening. Again, I'm Josh Gilbert, CEO of SUST Global and also main speaker-in-chief at Climate Coffee. Looking forward to catching up with you again very, very soon. Thanks for now.